The appraisal just came in low. Is that going to kill your deal? This is Ron Wysokarski from the Black Hole of Real Estate. And with the times we are in right now, there is a possibility that an appraisal comes in low. And by the way, there's also a possibility that it comes in way higher than the actual contract price. So let's talk about that. Well, first things first. For some magical reason, it seems like a lot of times appraisals come in right at the contract value. And if you think about it, the appraiser has a copy of the contract, so they have a moving target. And I've often said if you gave a home to appraise to 3 different appraisers and you didn't tell them the contract price, you might get 3 different values. So now when we have a lack of sales in certain areas, certain times, of square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms, so we're going to have some confusion and some discrepancy in appraisal values. Now think of it this way. If you're in a specific neighborhood and you are comparing homes the same model, same bedroom, same bathroom, same square footage, built about the same time, and those properties were like a mile, maybe 2 miles from the subject property, the one that you're going to buy, then chances are there's going to be several comps, and they're going to line up and it'll be like, kind, and exact. Perfect. But what if your home was, unique or different, or maybe there haven't been a lot of sales within a mile or 2 nearby of similar homes? Well, as you make adjustments, and keep in mind you make adjustments to the comparable homes. So if there's 4 or 5 comparable homes in the appraisal, they'll make adjustments on the sold price of those as compared to the subject property, the one that you're buying. And as you get further away, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 miles away, those comps are going to matter less. And if you don't have any sales nearby within the last 3 to 6 months, now you're going to have to go maybe against a cost approach or a different way to appraise the value because you don't really have any sales comparables even after adjustments that would make sense. So now with all that on the table, let's just suppose that you're buying a property for $250 and the appraisal comes in at $240. Okay, does that mean the deal is dead? Well, it doesn't. And I'm not sure if AI is going to help you with this, so I'm going to help you with it. There's a few ways that you could proceed with this. If it was a cash sale and the difference between $250 and $240 is negligible to the buyer, they might just say, whatever, I'll just go ahead. But not many people that are cash buyers actually do appraisals. Now, what if it was a loan where it was a really big down payment? They're buying it for $250 and they're putting $125 down. Well, it's really, for the appraisal to be low, doesn't really affect the loan to value ratio or the mortgage, let's say, other than maybe just the idea that, well, it didn't appraise, I would like to get a deal on that or at least get it down to the appraisal price. So with that in mind, you can go back to the seller and say, look, at the appraisal came in low. Would you reduce the price to the $240, the appraisal price? Seller might just say, yeah, they might have a motivation to sell the property. They might have thought that, hey, we got an above average price for it. And maybe they were prepared if it came in low, they still want to close. Maybe that $10,000 is less important than the other $240 they're going to get at closing. This happens. Now, the other side of it is they can say to go pound sand and you just figure it out on your side. And if you have this loan in place, then you can say, well, we just have to make, if you're doing 10% down or 5% down, a little bit bigger down payment because your loan size is going to be based off of the $240. So if you were putting 5% down and the purchase price was $250, that'd be $12,500. But now 5% of $240 is $12,000 plus you're missing $10,000. So now you got to up your deposit, like your down payment, $10,000, so $22,000. So some people just do it that way. So you can just forget it and not worry about the appraisal came in low because you still want to buy it. You can get the seller to just lower the price, or you can split the difference in the middle somewhere. Maybe you lower at 5 and pay more at 5 or 6 and 4, but you get the idea. There's $10,000 to figure out, and then you have to just decide who's going to, bear the cost of that. Sometimes you get a second appraisal, but what I have learned, it's pretty rare to dispute an appraisal and get a change in value. It almost never happens. You spend a lot of time, sometimes a lot of extra money, and a lot more anxiety, and it just doesn't work. So when the appraisal comes in low, options are simple. get the seller to drop the price to the appraisal value. Just go ahead and make the purchase and not worry about the difference, or maybe figure out a way to share that difference. And that's what happens. So a low appraisal doesn't have to kill a deal. And I've given you some solutions that will help you with that. And the last thing I would say is there are times where the seller just doesn't want to drop and the buyer can't come up with the extra money in order to make that down payment, other than a little bit of creativity between gifts from family members or maybe some positive pricing on the mortgage that can be used towards closing costs to increase the down payment side, because maybe you only got like 15 grand to work with. Maybe a little bit of your closing cost money could go towards the down payment. Maybe the seller chips in some closing cost assistance. There's a few different ways to work that out. So what I would say is the deal isn't dead until I say it's dead. And I would work it and work it and work it until there's no life left. And if we've exhausted every opportunity, you know what? And then we're going to try one more time. So when the appraisal comes in low, it's not the end of the world. You just have to sharpen your pencil and get back to work. So if you got questions about appraisals or want to know more creative ways to make sure your deal doesn't die, go ahead and drop us a line. Hit the subscribe button. This is Ron Wysakarski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.